button. Okay, so it is January the 30th. This is our first NAR education professional session. And we have with us Mr. Jack Colpas from Reach for the Stars rocket competition. And he's going to tell us all about what he and his wife have been up to for the last 18 years as they've been taking students through the art of rocket building. So, Jack, I will throw it over to you and you can take it away.
Okay, as it says there, annual event since 2006. And that's my lovely wife on the right-hand side who does not want to be on camera, although, as you can see, between the two of us, she's the one that should be. So at least I feel that way. Now, if I can remember how to do this. Well, we're all in agreement on this. We need to get more kids interested in STEM. And as I said, the only thing I've ever found that's more exciting than a rocket launch is a rocket competition. And if you don't believe me, those are middle school kids. And to get middle school kids that involved, there aren't many things that'll do that. Believe me, I know. And talk about impressing parents. That's one of my favorite things because a rocket launch is so exciting. Parents get a lot of times get invited to the launch, and I'm telling you, the only faces that show more excitement and amazement than the kids are the parents, especially if you're working with the younger kids, 10 to 12 years old. The parents are often totally amazed that their kids have actually built and launched this rocket, and its kids are pretty happy about it too. Affordable and annually renewable, as I told you, once it became a national competition, it changed everything in fundraising. We also have several fundraising sites available through our website that have already given grants in past years to schools and scouts. And we're working right now on a national program with AIAA, that's the American Institute for Aeronautics and Astronautics. They did a pilot program last year in Florida. It went very well, and we're hoping that they'll get that program in all 50 states, and we'll share that information with you as soon as we have it. Won't begin to lie. COVID hit us really hard. For some reason, people didn't want to get 12 kids together in one spot. And then when they came back, schools had so much to catch up on that they weren't doing many extraneous programs. So we did go in and we changed what rules we could that would make contact between kids almost non-existent. So that changes everything. With no contact, every kid gets their own rocket. So they don't have to come in contact with each other. Every kid gets their own kit, and I'll show you those when we're done here. So as far as spreading COVID or anything else for that matter, it cuts way back on the contact between kids. And also, only one adult can be assigned to handle all the contact at the launch pad. So therefore, there's only contact with one adult and one kid at any one time. But the biggest thing is, and especially between my wife and I, we've got over 50 years in the public school classrooms. So we know how difficult it is to travel with kids. It's difficult, it's expensive, there's a lot of liability involved. So we intentionally designed the competition to be run at your location. These rockets are small enough, according to the FAA, they are too small to be regulated. So they're small enough to be launched at any sports field. When I was a kid, they were football fields, now they're soccer fields, but baseball fields work just fine, or any park. And the fact that no travel is involved to compete keeps the cost way down, so you can involve all of your kids. As a matter of fact, some of our best successes have come from schools that have decided to have all of their kids, for example, all of the fifth graders before they move on to sixth grade, get a chance to enter this competition and build and launch their own rockets. It becomes part of their celebration. As a matter of fact, if the launches are nearby, we ask for an invitation because I love to watch the kids launch their rockets. And we went to one, and one of the teachers told me that he was the fifth grade teacher, and the kids every year at fifth grade, they all get a chance to build and launch rockets. And he had a second grader come running up to him and say, Mr. Smith, will I get to launch rockets when I'm in the fifth grade? So here a second grader is already looking forward to the rocket launch in fifth grade. The competition's for ages 10 to 18, so it's perfect for elementary, middle, and high school. And while you're watching these pictures, there's a girl, there she is on the right-hand side, running back from the field with her rocket in hand, and look at the expression on her face. I wanted to point that out because there's another young lady coming up in a little bit that's also running back from the field after recovering her rocket. The difference is, that's her. She's a school teacher. So if you've got a program that's so exciting that both the teachers and the 10-year-olds can get that excited about it, you've got something good. And we believe we have something good. We designed the competition so that it would go along with 4-H, Civil Air Patrol, and Boy Scouts of America badges and advancement. We've worked with the Girl Scouts. They don't seem to, at least the last time I checked, they did not have a national program going, but they have a lot of local programs. So by design, the competition is designed so, for example, a Boy Scout troop can get together, each one of them entering in the national rocket competition, and at the same time meeting many of the qualifications they need to for their merit badge. So that works out extremely well for everybody. Also, we found that because our competition works with the smaller, I keep holding things up to show them in the camera. I'll have to do that when we're done. We use the alpha-sized rockets with A engines, again by design, and because of that, it's easy for kids, and they get a great understanding of building and launching a rocket. So it is great training for the other advanced competitions like NASA's AIA's competitions, and especially NAR's Team America Rocketry Challenge. We know of 3 different teachers who ended up taking their NAR team to the nationals, but they used the Reach for the Stars competition at their school to recruit and train kids for the NAR at more advanced competition. And if you're not convinced yet, take a look at the faces. The boy in the middle right now, he is now at the University of Alabama taking aeronautics classes. At the time when he entered the competition, he wasn't so sure, but by the time he was done, he was set, and that's him on the lower left. He was a YMCA kid from Massachusetts, and still in touch with us, keeps in contact. As you can see from the Scout and the merit badges, it works out perfectly. And I hope you saw that rocket go shooting across there at the beginning there, because that took me way more time to do than it should have. Our goal, as you can tell, is to give the kids the opportunity to build and launch a solid fuel-powered model rocket. By the way, I hate calling them model rockets. They are models, but models in general look like a big real vehicle, and they look great on the shelf. Well, these do look like great rockets, and they look great on the shelf. I keep mine on my desk all the time, but they're real rockets. They're just small. Okay, so like if you build a model car or a model boat, it doesn't do anything but look good. These are solid fuel rockets. They go up about 200 feet in the air on the A engines. There's a secondary pop and parachutes emitted, and then they come back and land by parachute. It's real rocketry. Our mission is to keep alive the first teacher in space, Krista Corrigan McAuliffe. And by the way, I think it was the 37th anniversary just passed of her losing her and the members of the Challenger. I never met Krista, but like her, we were both born in Boston in the 1940s, both went to Massachusetts State Teachers Colleges, and we were both teaching about 50 miles away from each other when we both applied to be the first teacher in space. I applied along with 11,000 other teachers across the country, and I never got past round one. As we all know, Krista got to go. But because of that, I think all teachers feel a kinship to Krista. In my case, I feel a really closeness. So I always made sure that my students knew who she was. And I noticed as the years went by, fewer and fewer kids knew her name. And then finally, a lot of the kids didn't even know there was a teacher. All they knew was something blew up. So when we started the competition, actually when we started the rocket program, it was a perfect way to recognize Krista and keep her name and memory alive. And we're doing that to the tune of, at this point, over 22,000 kids have built and launched rockets in the Reach for the Stars National Rocket Competition. By the way, Reach for the Stars is part of her quote, push yourself as far as you can. Reach for the stars. And our purpose is to foster an interest in model rocketry, STEM subjects, and aeronautics. Running a competition is as easy as 3, 2, 1. You knew I had to do it, right? It couldn't be 1, 2, 3, not with rocketry. Those girls in the pink are Girl Scouts from Central Florida, by the way. Step 3, order your rocketry supplies. We work with a major wholesaler of hobby supplies and have for over 20 years to get the supplies as affordable as possible. We're able to do everything. And I know being a school teacher, that's the first question is always, what does it cost? We're able to do everything at $30 per kid. And I know as a salesperson, I'm not supposed to tell you that until the end. So I am aware, but I'm also a school teacher and you got to know what it costs. And $30 is not a small amount, but if you go into the hobby shop and try and buy one of these rockets and supplies for 2 launches, it'll cost you more than that and you won't be in the national competition. We also have, for people who get the rockets on their own already through some supplier they don't want to break ties with, you can get your supplies elsewhere and just purchase the registrations through us. 2, assemble the rocket kit. I started to hold it up again. I'll do that at the end. These kids, when I was growing up, which I realized was a while ago, everybody built models of everything. It was a regular thing for kids to do. That's changed. Not many kids build models anymore. So for a lot of kids, it's the first time they've actually gotten a bag of parts and put it together to look like something. And that's a huge step, especially if you're talking STEM, because, excuse me, because when you actually do it yourself, it makes a huge difference in your investment. And that, by the way, when I say do it yourself, each kid gets to build and launch their own rocket. We started with the educational program and we would have 3 to 5 kids on a rocket because of cost. But what we found, as a matter of fact, at one school I visited, as we went out, the teacher said, bring the big trash can. And I'm thinking, what does she need the big trash can for? It was a middle school. Middle school kids are wonderful. But there were 4 kids on a team. And basically, to a middle school mind, if I can't take the rocket home, you can't either. So the kids were actually running out into the field, and instead of bringing their rockets home, they were stomping them into the ground. and throwing them into this big trash can. So that was one of the reasons we decided we need to have this competition so each kid gets to build and launch their own rocket. There's a lot to be said for group activities. Nothing wrong with when we were doing it with 4 kids, except, let's face it, there's only going to be one thumb on that launch button. And that picture down the bottom is a class. They sent us a picture of their rockets after they decorated them. You don't have to decorate them, but it's once again, it's that ownership thing that changes. Prepping for launch, the kids have to pack their own parachutes, load their own solid fuel engines, and get everything ready for launch and place them. You can see the girls there with them on the launch pad, and the 2 kids there hooking up the electric ignition. It's an electric ignition from 15 feet away. Nobody's underneath the rocket with a match or a Bic lighter. I don't know if kids would know what matches are today, but it's perfectly safe. And Estes, the lead company in model rocketry, especially educational rocketry, has been doing this for over 50 years, and they've got a fantastic track record for safety. And if you want to see STEM, look at those 2 girls there. If you could, they can't be any more involved if they wanted to be. And 3, 2, 1, launch and recovery. The launch is exciting. As I said, the only faces that get more excited than the kids are the parents. As I said, once they get it set up on the launch pad, they get a chance to aim their rocket in the direction that they think it's going to go. Their goal is to land the rocket by parachute as close as possible to an on-field target. Love the picture of the lower left. Go Girl Scouts. And so all the kids have to, get their rockets ready, decide where they're going to aim that launch rod. They get the NASA style countdown from their classmates, 3, 2, 1. We've got a ready light, press the button and go. And they lift off with sparks and smoke. And one of my favorite science reporting science connections was, and I've seen it more than once, but the first time I saw it was actually one of the directors of our program. We were doing this together in the early 1980s at the local science museum, and his son was launching rockets with us. He was, I think, 10 at the time, and you get the smell of the black powder when the rockets lift off, and everybody sniffs at it. But he looked up for a minute and stuck out his tongue to taste it, and I thought, that is the element of science right there. There's science inquiry at its best. And like I said, since then, I've seen many kids do it, but it was kind of cool to see it that first time. Oops. Almost hit the wrong arrow. All right, the only thing that's left, and once again, the goal of the competition is to land your rocket as close as possible to an on-field target, which is 50 feet downrange from the launch pad. The closest average, having 2 launches does a lot of things, but it also takes away an element of luck. If it's only one launch, luck plays a bigger part than it does if there are 2 launches. You're going to be a little bit more skilled. So basically, what most people do is those little flags that they use to mark underground cables and things like that under the lawn work great. You put the kids' initials on it, and you mark where the nose cone landed when it came to rest on the ground, the tip of the nose cone. That's according to National Association of Rocketry rules for spot landing competitions. We provide the entry forms, and we also provide certificates for all of the kids, but we also provide a special certificate for your local winner and a letter to send home to their parents so that they know that their child has won locally, and their information there has been entered into the national competition. Launches are really good for publicity. I was involved with the Math Olympics, and also the many science fairs. It's hard to get the press to come out and cover those, especially, God bless the Math Olympics. It's a great competition for kids. It really does a lot of good, but the press doesn't want to come out and cover it. Call them up and tell them that you're going to be launching solid fuel rockets, and they'll send out the TV cameras. We're very proud also on the left-hand side there. We were featured in the Florida Association of Science Teachers journal, and other journals since. But very proud of that one. So each contestant gets everything they need. And I do want to mention two things that are up on the screen now, besides the fact that you can, for about the cost of a movie, popcorn, and a drink, which blows me away because that used to be $2 when I was a kid. If you went on the right night, they'd give you the popcorn and drink for free. But now it does cost about $30 to buy the whole thing and go to a movie. But the two things I wanted to point out, number one, in the upper left, the Girl Scouts. One of the things we are most proud of the competition is the number of girls that have been national winners. It's running close to 50%, and many of them have been Girl Scouts. We accredit that to the fact that Krista McAuliffe is listed in her biography as a lifelong Girl Scout. So it meant a lot to us to get the Girl Scouts involved, and it also means a lot to them to share that with their girls. So a lot of girls have been involved, and even though it is a group activity, the kids gather together to build their rockets and they compete against each other locally. It's an individual competition. So it really makes a huge difference that way. And the certificates, and by the way, so Krista was a Girl Scout. I was a Boy Scout at the same time, and also for a short period of time was in Civil Air Patrol. So that's one of the reasons that we worked hard to make sure that there was alignment between whatever Girl Scout programs we could find and the Boy Scouts space exploration, I think, merit badge. The certificate, and I think it shows up later in one of the slides. I should know I put this together, but the certificate that every single kid gets honors Krista. There's a picture of Krista. It's her quote that's on it. And the background is an astronaut reaching for the stars. It was painted by Alan Bean, one of the 12 men who walked on the moon. So we are really honored to be able to use that image, and what a great way to excite kids. As you well know, if you've taught for more than a couple of weeks, newsletters may or may not get home to the parents, and if they do get home, they may or may not be read. But certificates, at the very least, get stuck up on a refrigerator with a magnet. And if it's a certificate that's this, and allow me to say this cool, we worked really hard on them, then they're often framed and they're up for a long time. By the way, the new certificates show our sponsorships at the bottom. And the affordable enough to involve all your kids. As I mentioned to Robyn before we started, we have many schools. Well, we had many before COVID. They're building back up again, but they use it as part of their graduation ceremony, or I guess I should say matriculation ceremony. We've got a 5th grade classes where all the 5th graders get a chance to build and launch their rockets in a national competition. That's pretty cool. I trust if you've taught science at all, you noticed the terms that are showing up at the bottom and soon at the top. If anyone should ask. This is rocket science. And as I mentioned, if I get a chance, if it's a school that's close enough to us, that's or a scout troop or that's launching, we ask them to invite us to come over. And one of the schools, Booker Middle School in Sarasota, I was there standing beside the teacher, and the 8th grade girl, getting ready to make her move to high school, came running over to her teacher and said, "I never knew I could build a rocket, let alone make it fly." I wrote it down that day. That's exactly what we're trying to do. You may or may not have noticed that I haven't mentioned anything about lesson plans. The reason for that is to make it inclusive for ages 10 to 18. There is no one lesson plan that applies. There's no way you can work that. So we don't have a lesson plan. For that reason, an elementary school teacher can be teaching Newton's laws. What goes up must come down. A middle school teacher can be calculating trajectory, measuring wind speeds, whatever they're doing at middle school. And in high school, and these are just examples, they can be doing their chemical equations, all while competing in the national rocket competition. Because the 10-year-olds aren't competing against the 18-year-olds. The 18-year-olds will be competing against each other, and the 10-year-olds will be competing against each other. So it's a fair playing field, and they all use the same rules. So a scout troop in Massachusetts can be competing against a Civil Air Patrol group in Texas and a private school in Florida, all at the same time without ever leaving their home campus. And as you can see, there are lots of lesson plans available and state standards. And I'm having trouble seeing where'd the buttons go? Oh, there we go. Makes sense. Compete locally, celebrate nationally. The celebration at the U.S. Space and Rocket Center is the carrot at the end of the stick. If you want the ponies to run, you got to have a tasty carrot at the end of the stick. And getting a chance to go to the U.S. Space and Rocket Center, to be honored at the U.S. Space and Rocket Center, to launch from Homer Hickam Field. And if you don't recognize the name Homer Hickam, hopefully by the end of this slideshow, you will. Homer Hickam's an author that wrote the book Rocket Boys, was turned into the movie October Sky, the only theatrical release that I was allowed to use as a public school teacher. They actually purchased it for the school system because, well, movies often mention teachers, but they don't always treat us well. But Homer made it very clear that a good teacher can make a difference in your life. And I don't know if you saw the change down the bottom of the certificate. As I mentioned, if you look at the certificate while we go through this again, you watch it change. Sorry, I didn't know it would go all the way back. It won't take but a second. But if you watch it, that is the wall at the Astronaut Hall of Fame. It's a mural painted by one of the 12 men, Alan Bean, who walked on the moon. And watch carefully, and you'll watch it. Hopefully, there we go. And those are the certificates that the kids get. So there you are. I got to say, pretty cool. As I mentioned before, all of the contestants compete against each other in their group, but they're also competing against kids all over the country that enter the competition at any time throughout the year. When the end of the year, when the competition wraps, which will be the end of July in 2025, we take a look at all of the entries, and the top 5 will get invited to celebrate together at the U.S. Space and Rocket Center. And by the way, the reason I say celebrate together, we tried it one year to have them compete when they got there. But first of all, you've got 10-year-olds competing against 18-year-olds. And some of the kids are coming from rocket clubs that have lots of experience, and others contact us and say, "Jack, I've never done this myself. How am I going to do it with my kids?" So we do have PowerPoint and videos to help them to help them do that. And then you get to award the certificates. This can be done the day of the launch, but we suggest that it goes over a lot better if you do it at some award ceremony at the school. And the awards you see being awarded there are for our national winners, mostly from astronauts. Interestingly, the one that was just on there was, and I just lost his name, but he was Brazil's only astronaut at the time. And it turned out that one of our national winners, his parents were from Brazil. So that turned out absolutely fantastic. That's me with Homer Hickam in the middle. And he has been a strong supporter of the competition ever since we started, and continues to be so. And that's him presenting to a Boy Scout. Quote from my wife: national winners receive memories to last a lifetime and bragging rights for generations to come. I know if my grandmother had launched a rocket at the U.S. Space and Rocket Center, I'd be bragging about it. So I can pretty well feel comfortable that any of the kids that get a chance to actually be the national winners and celebrate there, they're going to tell those stories to their grandkids. And how many educational programs can you say that about, or think that about? And we're pretty sure that happens. We also, one of the key things we do is that we, again, to keep Krista's memory alive and the memory of the others that perished on the Challenger, each of the national winners is awarded a medal, and it's a Space Shuttle Challenger commemorative bronze medal. They were cast within sight of pad 39A, which is where the launch took place. And so they really, I believe, are really special. And it's a great way to keep in memory Krista McAuliffe and the crew of the Challenger. The kids are also honored by the National Space Society, the National Association of Rocketry, AIAA, the American Institute of Aeronautics and Astronautics, and Estes. They all send representatives. Well, Estes sends model rockets for the kids, but the others send representatives to the celebration to award the kids certificates and congratulate them on what they've done, making it very special. Well, I thought I muted all of it. Past national winter celebrations were held at the Astronaut Hall of Fame, Kennedy Space Center. Also at the October Sky Festival, which was Homer Hickam, the celebration of the Rocket Boys, and Colwood, West Virginia. And now we continue on at Space Camp at the U.S. Space and Rocket Center in Huntsville. And that is, I am so proud of that picture right there. That is so cool. Here's Homer Hickam's book that I was talking about before, Rocket Boys, and it was turned into the movie October Sky. As it says down the bottom from Barnes & Noble, Rocket Boys has been the most picked book for community reads across the country. I'm not sure if you know about the Community Reads program. They try to get everyone in the community, or a lot of people in the community, to read the same book at the same time. Especially they push to try and get kids, teens or tweens, I think they call them, to read the book, so that when you get a chance to talk to somebody, friends and family, even in the line at the grocery store, people have read the same book at the same time, and they share that story and that love of reading, which is really cool. And Rocket Boys has been the #1 many times. I know I keep mentioning Homer. We're so proud of our association with him. And if you do any research into Homer Hickam, you'll see why. On the left-hand side, we met with the original Rocket Boys. They still call themselves Rocket Boys, by the way. Roy Lee Cook. If you saw the movie or read the book, Billy Rose, Homer Hickam, and Jimmy Odell Carroll. And they're the Rocket Boys from the movie. And yeah, that's Jake Gyllenhaal playing Homer Hickam on the right-hand side there. Still haven't gotten Jake to come out, but we're working on it. Many astronauts have been involved in honoring our national winners. And the moonwalker and astronaut artist Alan Bean is one of the ones of whom we're most proud. By the way, Bill Reedy in the upper right-hand corner launched rockets from the field in Colwood, where the original Rocket Boys launched with us, and those are the two winners, right and left of him, all launching together. And we got a 3, 2, 1. He pressed the button. There was a little fizz, and nothing happened. And he turned to me and he said, "Jack, at NASA we call that a hang." And I said, "But Bill, it's got to make a big difference if you're sitting on the top of the rocket when it happens." We changed his igniters, and he got a chance to launch. Marcos Pontes. Sorry, Marcos, I forgot your name. That's the Brazilian astronaut, and it was amazing. It turned out that the parents, one of our national winners, were both from Brazil. Those two gentlemen might look familiar to you. Then Senator, now Director of NASA, Bill Nelson, did a video on YouTube challenging the kids to compete in the Reach for the Stars National Rocket Competition, as did astronaut Bob Cabana, who was the Kennedy Space Center Director at the time. So both of these YouTube presentations were put up there to get kids involved and to get them excited. And it's pretty exciting for us to have people of that stature to help us out in that way. And as you can see, the picture on the right of astronaut Bob Cabana, that was of a group of YMCA kids getting ready to launch, and they get to watch the video before they launched. The National Rocket, the Reach for the Stars National Rocket Competition has been featured in many different periodicals and websites. The National Space Grant Foundation, that's one of the ones we mentioned that has funded the competitions, and several of the homeschool networks. And we're featured in Rocket STEM magazine, which is really pretty cool. Well, the only problem is my little arrows disappear down here. Oop, might have to click it twice. We're also endorsed by, I don't know how many of you remember the X Prize. The X Prize was $1 million prize that was offered to the first civilians that could actually get a rocket up into space and back safely. Steve McGrath was one of those. He designed the X Prize Eagle, and he's been a great supporter of the competition since we started. One of the reasons the competition has worked out well for us is in fundraising. People are quicker to give money to a national competition than they are to an educational program. Sad but true. So it really, the rocket competition, as I said before, it's hard to get the TV cameras to come out to film the kids at the Math Olympics. Once again, I'm not picking the Math Olympics. It's a fantastic program. But if you tell them that the kids are launching solid fuel rockets, they'll send the cameras out almost every time. And excuse the pun on igniting the interest. I think there's a rocket coming too. There it goes. I had to point that out. That took me way more time than it should have. We do have everything ready, and we've been ready for 17 years. Your kids can't win it if they're not in it. And so you can contact us through the website, and we'll be glad to help you out. As I mentioned, on the website, we do have PowerPoint presentations. This one explaining why you should host, and then another one explaining how to run the competition. And then we have videos that we call Pause for Science, and they are designed to help you to step by step help you have the kids build the rockets. You show the video, it actually starts off and says, oh, I'm holding the rocket kit up again. You can't see me. It says take this part out of the bag, and these two parts out of the bag, and then it goes through how to glue them together and everything else. Or all of the rocket kits come with written instructions, which you can follow. And by the way, the competition is usually done in one day. Build the rockets in the morning, do something while the glue dries. By the way, that's a really important step. You have to do something while the glue dries. If the glue doesn't dry, it does not go well. At least not for the possibility of a second launch. And then launch in the afternoon. But we recommend, especially if you're a school or a scout troop that you meets with the same kids regularly, or a summer program, that you break it up and build the engine compartment on day one. And then the next time the kids get together, you can put the fins on, or whatever step two is. And there's several reasons for that. One is there's a more successful build for the rockets because the teacher gets a chance to kind of check in between steps. No hands-on, but you can talk to kids through anything. But the other thing is the excitement and the ownership build from day to day. So that's the end of that. And if I can figure out how to make that smaller and go back to my camera.
Up at the top.
Oh, at the top, here we go.
Stop share.
Oh, the only problem is the stuff at the top is not showing. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, this meeting's being, if I click, oh, there we go. Okay. I had the meeting was being recorded.
Okay.
And I'm guessing
there should be one that says stop sharing the screen.
Oh, stop sharing. There we go. Thank you. There we are. Hi. Now I'm seeing you. Are they seeing me, or are you seeing me? I mean, in the big screen.
As you're big on my screen. So if you
Okay.
hold up the rockets.
Oh, I'm so proud of it.
Everybody else, is Jack big on your screen? Can you give a thumbs up if Jack is big on your screen? Okay. Yep.
Okay. These are the rocket kits that I was talking about. I think you can, oh, I can get them in closer. This happens to be the Alpha. That's the standard. It's the first rocket built by Vern Estes. The only big change is it now has a plastic nose cone. It used to have a balsa wood nose cone. But that's what the kids get, is a bag of parts. And then when they follow the instructions, they build one of these. Okay. Now this happens to be a plastic fin rocket. That's one of the other things that we have is you can, Mr. Wright, do I have to crank up the volume or something, or okay, we're good. Okay, and because we have kids competing from 10 to 18, and we have some teachers or leaders that say, well, I've never done it myself. What am I going to do? The plastic fin unit, I'm serious, you shake the bag and it almost puts itself together. It's that easy. It's step by step. It's really easy to do, and they fly really well. But as you get more advanced groups or groups that want more of a challenge, then you get something like the Alpha. I'm not going to pull it out of the bag, but it's got balsa wood fins. So each one of the fins has to be shaped by sand and glued on individually. So it gives them a more involvement in the construction. But either way, the rockets end up being about the same size and shape. They launch with an A engine. It looks very much like a shotgun shell. It's filled with solid fuel. They are extremely safe. You can throw them on the floor. I don't suggest you do, but nothing will happen. It's not like you're going to drop them off the table and there's going to be an explosion. They then get an igniter, and I goofed. I'm sorry, I don't have an igniter with me. The igniters are like an electric match, and it's got two wires coming out of it. You insert that, insert a plug to hold it in place. That's whoops. Why don't I insert it into the rocket so you can see how this actually works? Let me make sure I'm in there. And I'm trying to watch the screen and look at the rocket. So once the engine's in there, then they put in that, sorry, I didn't bring one, electrical match, which is called an igniter, or some of the, one of the other companies calls them starters. And then you hold it in place with one of these and you're good to go. 2 wires will be sticking out here. You load them onto, I think you can see it behind me. I don't know if it's close enough. I can move it in. Oops. You load it onto the launch pad, onto the launch rod above the launch pad, and then those 2 wires will be sticking out. You then get your launch control, 2 alligator clips, hook one to each other, one to each wire, and then, like as I said, you're about 15 feet away, very safe. The most dangerous thing I think about the whole thing is at the top of this. I don't think you can see it in the video, but it's a long rod. So they have a cap. So as Mama told all of us, you'll poke your eye out. So to make sure that doesn't happen, the cap goes on there. And then I do not have batteries in this, but you can press the button all you want. Nothing's going to happen until you put the safety key in. And then my apologies, if I had batteries in there, we'd get a ready light. Once you have the ready light, the competitor getting ready to launch says, I have a ready light. And then the whole group gives them a NASA style countdown. They get down to the 3, 2, 1, press the button. It ignites the engine. It takes off. Like I said, these with an A engine go about 200 feet in the air. I think the packaging says 300, but 200 feet in the air. There's a secondary pop in that engine, and it pops out the, whoops. Make sure you take the tape off before you launch. It pops out the nose cone, and that will pull out the parachute. And then with any luck, the parachute opens and the rocket will come back to Earth. The goal, of course, is to come back to Earth as close as possible to an on-field target. They have to repack their rockets for a second launch, repack the parachutes. This flame-proof wadding also goes in there to stop the parachutes. As you notice, the parachutes are plastic. Plastic and sparks don't get along really well. And so I'm going to put the cap on here now because, like Mama said, you'll poke your eye out. There we go. Safety first. You mark all the landings where the nose cone landed, and then you can measure them all, but you only have to measure the ones that you think are going to be your potential winners. And then, like I said, the single winner, you send the entry form, fill the entry forms out, and send them back to us. We do work with a diverse number of groups, and I mean, we actually work with the Girl Scouts, and you can't trust them. Hopefully they're going to laugh. Thank you. Actually, I'm more nervous working with the Boy Scouts because I was one. But Scouts I trust. Pretty much any other group I'm not sure of. So that's the rule, is you have to have 3 adult judges, and one has to have title. It can't be a teacher. It's got to be a principal or an assistant principal, or somebody with title in the school. It can't be just a police officer or a firefighter. It's got to be somebody that has title, somebody that's willing to sign on the dotted line and say this is all true. And in the 17 years we've been doing it, we've had very few questions. And if I do have any question, I call the judge up and ask for verification, and so far it's all gone well. But I think that keeps everybody honest. And the reason we went with the 3rd judge, being a teacher for over 30 years, I wasn't worried that teachers would lie so that they could get to go to the celebration, or that they could brag about their kid. Teachers lie because Timmy tried so hard this year. And if it wasn't for that darn tree, he would have been over there. So yeah, that we're aware, I'm aware of that kind of feeling. And you can, if you got two teachers, they're probably friends, but you throw that third one in, especially the one with title, and we feel pretty confident about the results we get. So I'm all set and I'm ready for questions.
Thank you,
If
Jack,
there are
so
any.
much for presenting. We got about 5 minutes remaining, and
Wow.
I did have one question. I wanted to know, you said that the kit was $30. Does that include registration into the national competition?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah, the $30, if you get the rocket supplies from us, the registration's included for the $30. And that's every kid gets their rocket kit, supplies for 2 launches, 2 engines, igniters, the wadding and everything else, and their certificate. And entry into the competition.
is
And
there an
I
additional?
can't remember I don't want to quote prices off the top of my head. You can go to the website
Okay.
and click on it. If you can't find it easily, send me an email and I'll put you onto the page for registration only. We don't sell many that are registration only, but there are a lot that are already involved. I know Civil Air Patrol, a lot of the Civil Air Patrol groups can get their rocket models through other sources, so they may already have them, and so that's available there too. And it's still, when you compare it to any of the other national STEM competitions, our biggest competitor is Lego Robotics, and that's when you start looking at the prices of Lego Robotics. We are very affordable, and the other problem, and once again, Lego Robotics is a fantastic program, but it's very limited to the number of kids you can have involved, and it's very expensive. And if you do well, you've got to go to, the state hall, or you got to go somewhere else in state to compete. And so that's why we intentionally removed those hurdles, so that more kids, both Kathy and I came from lower income and lower income schools. So we both chose to teach in kids with lower income. And so we wanted to make sure that those kids had the same chance. One of my favorite recollections of that is we had two girl national winners at the US at the Space and Rocket Center, and they were standing side by side. And one of the girls had come, and they had to. She said her auntie had to come with her because they had to come in their auntie's car, and the auntie's 2 kids were with them, and they didn't know what to do. So we got the kids in, but standing beside her was a girl whose grandparents flew in on their own private plane. She had competed at a private school, and these 2 girls were standing side by side, shoulder to shoulder. They launched together, they got their awards together, and that was, for us, that was just so cool.
Yeah, very cool. Very cool. Thank you. Does anybody else have any other questions? We got about 2 minutes remaining. If there are any other questions, you can unmute yourself and ask. Lynn's got a question. Go ahead, Lynn.
You know, what kind of difficulties have you run into to get parent participation to come out to the meets and see what's going on?
Excuse me, was that to get parents involved?
Yes.
Actually, it seems to me most of the time that the parents are more likely to get, it's easier to get them to come out for a rocket launch than Math Olympics, or to volunteer for a science fair, because it's pretty exciting. And if when you see the look on the parents' faces, they're often more amazed than the kids when the rockets take off.
Well, I've been teaching ROTC at a high school,
Okay.
and I've been trying and trying for years to get parents to come out, tell the kids, hey, get your folks to come out and watch, see what's going on. Nobody shows up. They bring the kids over to school, drop them off. I'm rid of them.
Well,
That's the way I'm thinking about it. That's what I'm
yeah.
thinking they're thinking.
Well, I don't know what I can say there, except maybe if they're aware that the kid's actually gonna launch a rocket in a national competition. I it seems to work. Like I said, I mean, I'm not picking on Math Olympics. It's just it's very quiet and very sedate, and so getting
Yeah.
people to come out to those. But when they know that it's actually a solid fuel launch, and maybe if you, I don't know, maybe I don't know if there's an incentive you could give to the kids themselves if if they bring their parents. I mean, you can't move you can't move their measurement closer to the
Right.
oh, and by the way, the reason that we do the landing on field is altitude is very hard to measure and always arguable, but where that nose cone is in the grass, there's little or no
Exactly.
argument at all.
Yeah, my ROTC kids, we compete against other ROTC units in the Houston area. And we'll have as many as 17 schools competing in one competition. And yeah, I see the eyebrows raised.
Yeah, really, that's fantastic. And as I said, and was that in the Reach for the Stars competition? Or
No, this is strictly ROTC competition.
okay,
And
so that's why we're pretty sure we're in alignment. And if you see anything where we're not in alignment with ROTC, I would love to know, and we'll try and juggle things to make it work. But it does make a difference if they know the kids in a national competition. It's like you can't get them to come out and watch every softball game, but when it's when it's for the
that's right.
championship, the parents come out. So if they know it's actually a national competition that the kids are in, hopefully that'll make a difference. But I don't know what to tell you about parent apathy.
I've tried with Systems Go, not Systems Go. ARC. Are you familiar with ARC? I've tried to get the school district to help with ARC, and it's not AIA sanctioned, so the school district won't let us do it.
Oh, for the Team America Rocketry Challenge from
Yes.
oh, well, we actually had we got contacted, it was several years ago, but we got contacted by Orlando schools, and they told us that the Orlando School District had I don't want to say outlawed, had forbidden rocket launches at the schools, and the whole thing was they didn't read the rules. So we went, I mean, they contacted us and said, we don't know what to do. I swear, we went as far as the FAA in Washington, D.C., and made the contact, and they actually sent a letter to it was actually through the airport. The airport had told them that they can't do any launches because they're too close. And I contacted the airport and explained that these were below regulation, and the science museum down here, the summer program we were at the chain link fence at the airport, and the airport director came out and cheered the kids on. But they wouldn't budge. So I went as far as the FAA in Washington, and they sent a letter to the uh, uh, airport and told them that as a matter of fact, they said when Mr. Colpas quoted the regulation to you, you should have read it. So that changed, and Orlando that switched over, and Orlando got a chance. We've had national winners from Orlando, and as a matter of fact, I just did the AIAA STEM conference. I made a presentation at the STEM conference in Orlando. So if you have problems like that, we'll be glad to work with you. I can't guarantee you we'll solve them, but I guarantee you we will work with you to try and make it happen.
I went to the trouble of pulling up the regs and printing them out and getting them over to the school board, and they said no. So that, but I've also, we're working with ROTC, and oh, by the way, Ms. Jackson, I quit in October.
Okay,
I just told, I got tired of the bureaucracy, and I says, I'm hanging it up, goodbye. And I'm still in it though, and working with the ROTC on the rocket meet, so.
Okay.
But,
It does make it, to me, if you're gonna build and launch these rockets, you're silly not to enter in the competition.
right,
Really, I mean, because you're gonna build and launch the rockets anyway, that's all you have to do for the competition. So it's like half a step to having the kids in a national competition.
yeah.
And when I just noticed the
Yeah,
clock.
we're running along.
Yeah, sorry. Um, I talk a lot anyway, and when you get me started on rocketry, I can go all day. Well, rocketry and kids.
Right.
well,
Well,
we
I'm
do
gonna get
thank
off
you
here.
though, Jack, for joining us. We thank everybody for coming on and jumping on. And I think one person had to bug out a little bit early, but Jack, thank you so much. What I'll do is I saw your contact information in your PowerPoint. So what I'll do is I'll get that contact information, and then what I'll do is go ahead and send that out to everyone who registered for this session, as well as the recording. So that way, if you need to go back and rewatch or look at something else, you can. And then also you will have Jack's information if you need to reach out to him. Okay.
Yeah,
Cool.
fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jack, for joining us. And thank you, everybody. And at this point, we'll go ahead and end the session, and we'll see everybody later.
Thanks
Bye,
again,
Ms.
Robyn.
Jackson. Bye, Jack.
You're welcome.
Bye now.
Bye.
Thanks.
Bye.